I even heard his coach say, "Go," when I threw the kick. Months laying in that bed, leg completely straightened out, just like so. You know, I was thinking about quitting. You know, I thought I was gonna be done. That kind of lit a fire in me, like, oh shoot, that guy had to take those to fight me. I gotta get back to work.
I'm here with Joshua Perreira, undefeated MMA fighter, coming off an electric win. Before this interview, everyone was telling me Josh is the nicest guy in the world. Then I got to talk to him a little before this. I could see it. I'm really excited for this. We're gonna dive into the deeper side of fighting and kind of go into his career, learn more about him behind the scenes. So thank you for coming on, Josh.
Thank you for having me, brother. I really appreciate you coming out of your way to, you know, ask me some questions.
Getting into fighting, I really wanna know if there was like a defining moment or training or fight where you're like, you know what, I can make a career with this, and this is gonna be my way of survival, not just a hobby.
Yeah. You know, growing up in Hawaii, I got into quite a bit of scraps. My brother used to call me Kimbo Slice. I always thought that was pretty funny. But you know, I was always just a lifelong martial artist. I started with karate when I was very little. Then I went into capoeira and I competed in judo all throughout high school. I didn't realize I was going to I didn't have any, you know, dreams or anything about being a mixed martial artist, but laying the foundation with all those different styles when I was younger and then slowly putting them together was pretty dang cool. I moved out here in 2018, and I had a really good friend of mine. He was teaching gymnastics and parkour. It was out of a gym called Parkour Horizons. And he was like, yeah, you know, come to the mainland. My family always said, you know, visit the mainland, see how it is, but you can take the island, you can take the boy out of the island, but you can't take the island out of the boy, of course. And I just kept training. I thought I was, you know, Rocky, running outside and stuff in the snow, and I got very, very sick, and then quarantine had just kicked off, and or I guess the starting of it. And I met my coaches, Matt Brown and Mark Coleman, and then I met Israel Adesanya, and, you know, long story short, I didn't realize, you know, that was like the real thing that got me into it. I took my first fight on a week's notice. I lost, and I think that would be my most defining fight. You know, there were so many different things that goes into fighting, not just the striking. You know, I was doing pretty good on the feet, but I didn't know anything about wrestling or grappling just yet. And lit a fire in me that, you know, as you can see, still burns very, very bright. And yeah, that would be my most defining fight, I believe. Just being able to get knocked down like that and having to get back up and, you know, not looking back since.
Yeah, and kind of more than just losing and having that motivation to get back up, what did you learn from that fight and that failure that you have built to now be undefeated in this professional career?
You know, you can't be you know, a specialist anymore in this game. The mixed martial arts as a sport is always evolving, and compared to where it was 20 years ago, 25 years ago, it's a completely different sport now. You can't be just a wrestler, you can't be just a striker anymore. You have to be able to blend the styles, and that's what I've learned the most, being able to finally understand the grappling, understand the wrestling. You know, I may not be, I'm only a 3-stripe, 4-stripe white belt for jiu-jitsu, but I'm fighting black belts, purple belts, whatever that may be, and getting wins over these guys. It's not, you can't be the best at a singular art anymore. You have to be able to mix up the different styles now, being able to flow between them like water, essentially.
Yeah, that's really cool. I feel like there's so many layers to fighting that I'm hoping to dive into later, especially for me, someone that doesn't watch MMA as much. There's so much that I don't know, and there's so much to be learned from it, and hearing all these different areas of it and seeing you and watching your fights and the striking versus the ground and pound, and when you're on the ground and you're doing more jiu-jitsu style, it's incredible to see like what you guys go through and the different layers and expertise you have to have in so many areas. It's really cool. The next thing I want to talk about, your nickname is the Flyin Hawaiian. It's obviously a massive nod to where you come from. I'm curious, when you walk into the cage, when they announce your name, what kind of pride are you carrying from that hometown?
You know, growing up in Kailua, growing up in Hawaii in general, just being able to carry my whole island, my whole state on my back, and just I'm very proud of where I'm from, and I'm very proud of where how far I've come from then. But you can't forget of where you're from, and I'm always going to rep Hawaii till the day I die, no matter what. You know, I'm a Buckeye, I guess now. Yeah. But coming from Oahu to Ohio, it's no matter what, I will rep the places that have built me up the most: Ohio, Hawaii, and I will continue to do that no matter what. My manager actually gave me that nickname. Yet again, I started with capoeira, a very flashy, a very extravagant and beautiful style. And he walks in, and I'm throwing all these wheel kicks and flying kicks and all these techniques. Like, oh, Flyin Hawaiian. I was like, just kind of stuck. I'm just very prideful, and like I said, no matter what, I will always carry Hawaii till the day I die.
Yeah, so you kind of talked about your flashy style a little bit, and then flashy nickname, but at the same time, you have this great humility to you, and I feel like that comes from your hometown as well. Can you just talk about that contradiction of your humility versus your flashiness when you're fighting?
Well, you know, fighting is an expression of yourself, but just the way that I was raised. You know, I come from a very good family. My dad, my mom, my brother, my sister, you know, we've had our, every family has their times, of course, where it gets tough, but no matter what, I grew up making sure that I before anything happens, I put myself into other people's shoes, or, I give anybody that gives me respect, I will give it right back. It's something, it's gotten me hurt before, people have taken advantage of me, of course, but no matter what, I will always give, a little piece of myself to anybody, and be humble no matter what happens, But going to my fighting style, I think fighting is it's the real. You can't fake that, You can't be boastful, you can't be your Conor McGregor. I can never do that, But when I'm in there, it's just everything just turns into one fluid movement. Everything just kind of all of everything that's gone through camp, everything that's ever happened, just kind of manifests in there, and it's a pure human movement, I believe, and being in control of your body and your wits, and being in control of your emotions. So yeah, it's just very cool.
Yeah, a little later in the interview, I'm going to ask you about kind of the preparation versus when you get in there, like kind of how you react to what you're seeing with your opponent.
Absolutely.
But something going off the humility and where you come from in Hawaii, you have a quote in one of your latest interviews. You said, "I eat what I kill and I earn everything." Kind of talking about how you want to climb the ladder, and you don't want. Obviously, you want to get to those championship fights and you want to win the belt, but you're willing to do what it takes to get there, and you don't want to go through any shortcut. So I want to ask, kind of, how does your hometown play into that? How does the way you were raised with your family play into that? And just what role does that mentality have in your career?
Just I earn, you just got to earn what you go out and set out for. You can't take any handouts. You got to go out and earn it.
Yeah.
You just got to go out and earn it.
Yeah.
I've had family help me a lot. And it's up to me to earn everything back and give back what is owed, and I'm very close to achieving some of my goals. I'm very, very close, but I look forward to not just taking care of myself and my future, but also giving back to the people that have given to me so very much, and it's, brother, I cannot wait.
Yeah.
I cannot wait.
Yeah, and so I talked about it before. Everyone describes you as a nice guy. I can already tell you're soft-spoken. Everyone seems to just love you. And for example, 5 years ago, you were in a fight with Ahmad Bates. And I remember after that first round, there's like a minute of like ground and pound. And that's a violent act. And it's like right after that though, you pick him up before the next round. You pick him up, you're there, you have his back. And then in round two, I think you submitted him, correct? Or knocked?
I think it was ground and pound.
Ground and pound, yeah, you knocked him out. And then, so you celebrated for maybe like a few seconds and nothing crazy. It really wasn't, you weren't rubbing it in his face or anything. Then you go and you hug him right away. And so I want to ask about that respect that you show him, your opponents, and people in general, how do you have to balance that with the violence required to win in the fight?
You know, it's a switch. You know, it's a they work just as hard as me, and who am I to say that? You know, when we're in there, it's different. You know, I know for a fact when I step in there, I'm going to win. But they work incredibly hard. Everybody that steps into the gym, they work incredibly hard. So who am I to say that I'm any better? Because I was in their shoes when I first started. You know, who am I to rub something into somebody's face? You know, they worked extremely hard, and I'm going to help them up off that mat and say, you know, tonight's my night, but you will have your own night. You know, you will have another night for yourself. You know, it's something. Yeah, everybody works so hard. I train so hard. I can only imagine what everybody else is going through and training and the emotions that takes. So, you know, why not? Why can't I? Why isn't there more of that in this sport? You know, yeah, it's a very violent sport, but he's not my nemesis. He's not my enemy. It's a job, and I have to complete the job. And after that, we're still human at the end of the day. You know, I've had opponents like, you know, call me like slurs and call me certain things, you know, and I still, no matter what, the way that I see it is that they can't control their emotions, so they have to lash out somehow, you know, and, you know, try and get in my head because I'm so in very much control of mine. So you know, when anything like that happens, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, you just can't control your stuff, and he's trying to get in my head, and, you know, maybe I'll, you know, get an extra couple little licks in there, but, you know, it's part of the game, and there's no second place. But, you know, you gotta give encouragement to your opponents to keep going, you know. So.
Yeah, and with that response and what you've said before, is that you're yourself and you're going to stick to that. I'm curious, in this world of fighting, sometimes I think fighters take on a persona maybe, and some of the bigger names like Conor McGregor, Sean Strickland, I don't know if that's really what they're like behind the scenes. Obviously, I haven't met them, but it definitely seems like there's a little bit of acting that goes into it. And I'm curious how you have decided to just stick with yourself no matter what, and what goes into that decision, and you wanting to kind of stick with that humility, soft-spoken, rather than trying to talk this crazy stuff to opponents.
Yeah, I in or out of the ring, I just want to make sure that, you know, I can be, you know, a role model for not just the next generation of fighters, just a good human being, you know. A lot of people are like, you're a fighter, oh my gosh, you're so nice. I was like, you know, the calm waters run deep, if anything. But I always carry myself, because yet again, I've been in that person's shoes the moment that they walk into the door, when everything is so dang scary, you know. So being more welcoming to not just people that train, but just being respectful to anybody, you know. Nobody has any idea what everybody's going through, you know. So if I can just be a little light in a very dark room for somebody, just for that split moment, you know, I'd be cool with that. My family was always like that to me, so let the light shine around a little bit more, you know. I'm religious. I believe in my Lord and Savior, and His light shines in me, and I just want to, give that little light to somebody as well. And yeah, the world's a scary place. Why can't you just be nice? You know, it costs absolutely nothing to be nice. So, yeah. I will continue to carry this, not persona necessarily, just carry myself the way that I am. And, no matter how hard it gets, I will always keep my head down and just keep being me.
Yeah, and do you think, we were talking before about how you love training and coaching, and so I'm curious that sticking with yourself and always being able to go about that, and you want to be a role model for younger generation when you're teaching them, and you can show them, hey, you don't have to be this person leading into a fight. Do you think that allows you to be a better trainer as well?
I certainly feel like it does, a lot of people have a lot of ego when they train. I've trained at a lot of gyms all over the world at this point now, and a lot of times somebody's ego starts to speak for them, and then all of a sudden you just see something manifest in somebody, whatever it was, their past traumas, whatever it may be, and they start trying to take your head off. You know, the Lord only gave us so many fights. Why would I want to waste them all in the gym? And why would I want to carry that angst, that thing that's like so very heavy on my shoulders around with me, you know? Speaking for somebody else, of course. But yeah, I just, the world's a scary place. I just want to be able to teach the kids and, you know, adults to be able to carry themselves and be able to defend themselves when they need to. Having it and not needing it is completely different than needing it and not having it, of course. So, you know, I've seen kids that were bullied. After working with them for quite some time, they get off the mats and all of a sudden you just see somebody completely different being able to carry themselves so very differently, and it's a beautiful thing. And like I said to you earlier before we turned the cameras on, if it was up, you know, if money wasn't an issue, I would love to just teach and just train for the rest of my life. But you know, I got to make sure my skills are sharp, so I can make sure the skills and the techniques that I'm teaching these kids or these adults or whoever walks in through that door, that my techniques that I'm teaching are, you know, they work in competition, in a self-defense situation.
Yeah, and so I'm curious, you kind of talked about some fighters and some maybe first starting out trainees, they have a lot of emotions. Do you see in the cage and maybe with some of the people you train that these high emotions are actually a weakness and that's something you can exploit when you're fighting?
Absolutely. I've fought against people with emotions, you know, trying to lunge at me. Whenever you fight with your emotions and not technique, you tend to rely on power, or you tend to rely on just trying to take their head off. When you rely on that, the technique goes out the window, your chin is up in the air, your punches start to lose that pop, and it's like more of a thunking kind of punch, not like a snap, and you can take full advantage of that. I've had people charge at me right out of the gate, try to take my head off, and all I do is pull my head back out of the way. They're overextended and I go to shoot. So it's like, yeah, people use emotions as a weapon, you know, the trash talk, the psychological warfare getting into people's heads, but I almost use emotions as a weapon as well. Not my emotions towards them, their emotions against me. They leave holes open, they leave opportunities to get countered, opportunities to get taken down. When people are fighting with emotions, they usually have certain tendencies, you know, maybe they'll kind of like grit their teeth and bring their hands down before they swing, which is a great opportunity for me to take advantage of that. Yeah, you can't, just like any job, you can't let your emotions play too much into it or you're gonna have a crappy day, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, just, you gotta be cold, you gotta be calculated. You got to be able to see things happen. And when you have blinders on, when you're so very angry, it's hard to see the shots that come around the guard. It's hard to see the shots that, hard to see even the fundamentals, you know? Everybody wants to be that flashy striker, but sometimes it's the fundamentals that catch you because you're the one trying to lunge in. Don't get me wrong, I've been like that before. I've had a fight where it went to a draw, and I fought a very tough opponent, and my head was so very big, and I was coming off of a sickness, and I should have backed out of that fight. But you know, I was so big-headed, and I was just like ready to get in there. I wanted to take the guy's head off. I didn't fight with technique, and ever since then, I gotta stay calm and get the butterflies that are in your stomach and get them to fly in formation. You know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just gotta stay calm. Gotta stay relaxed. Gotta be fluid.
Yeah, so now I want to talk about probably a fight that led to one of the more emotional, if not the most emotional point in your career. Let's talk about the Bama fight. Obviously, tearing your ACL, physical hell, but then finding out afterwards that your opponent failed a drug test and that you lost because of because he broke the rules. I mean, obviously that's a mental war, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask, how did you process that frustration without letting that anger and resentment completely consume your rehab, because you got to train for another fight?
13 months of rehab and training just to even get a fraction of where I was before that. It was the best camp I've ever had, signed with 1 championships, and everything was great. I had a great camp, but you know, I stepped forward on a jab the same way that I've thrown a jab thousands of times in sparring and in fights, and I felt a stinging sensation in my knee, as if somebody had put like a piece of metal between my kneecap and my bone, the bone right here. Almost felt like somebody had pulled back on a rubber band and it snapped. Not like snapped this way, but like, you know, when you pull on that rubber band, it just snaps. Felt something. It was just tension and then nothing. I kept fighting for as long as I could because I put so much time and effort into that camp. But after a while, my body just gave out on me. I even took a headbutt and I had blood on my eyes. I was just trying to process that in that moment. Herb Dean comes up to me after the fight. He's like, yeah, I saw your knee buckle. Same thing happened to Tom Aspinall. You'll be fine. I'm just sitting there on the ropes like, what the heck, what happened, what did I do wrong? And what I did wrong was train too dang much. I was training 7 days a week, 4 to 5 times a day. And you know, I didn't take time to recover. And then after the fight, they put me in a wheelchair, and people are like, you know, I just see all of these faces, some laughing, some cheering, like, good job, you know. They wheel me back, I get stitched up, and I try to walk, and my knee gives out again. And I see Banma back there, and he did a freaking backflip landing right on his face. But he's like taking selfies with people. I'm like, you didn't win. I want that fight immediately. All I remember, I was in a wheelchair and I was like, I want that rematch. And it's like, what rematch? What's a rematch? I'm like, you know what that is. So I was like, that's the first fight I wanted. And then a couple weeks later, it comes out that his drug test came back negative for not just something to help him with dehydration or to help him get water out of his system, but a couple other banned substances. I think even a steroid or some sort of metabolite. And you know, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, you're undefeated now. You know, you're back to undefeated." And I was like, "No, I wish I had lost decisively. I wish I lost with a knockout, a sub, or even just, you know, a unanimous decision." And kind of felt robbed because not just the injury, but he was cheating as well. Months laying in that bed, leg completely straightened out, just like so. Couldn't take a shower. Couldn't even get up and down the stairs. Taking advantage of so many things. And you know, I was thinking about quitting. You know, I thought I was going to be done. But I've had other teammates. You know, Cam Jenkins. He's had double ACL surgeries, like in rapid succession. Tore one, then tore the other, and he's still fighting. My good training partner and friend Josiah Harrell had brain surgery. You know, people live every single day with certain things. Who am I to, you know, call it quits because of that? So I went straight to rehab. You know, very tough. I had to go back to another surgery after they put everything back together, because I had a scar tissue cyst right underneath the kneecap, so I couldn't bend my knee more than this. But now I got almost full range of motion. You know, I get aches and pains every so often. But as soon as I was able to walk, I was boxing. As soon as I was able to run, I was kickboxing. And as soon as I was cleared, I was back to grappling and everything. Just don't tell my surgeon. Pain meds helped, but they also didn't help, you know. That comforting feeling, just staying locked away from everybody, pushing everybody away, definitely didn't help. But there's a certain, but people just kept saying, you know, come back to the gym, just to be present, you know, not to be a hermit or shut myself out. And I think that's what helped me the most, being surrounded by people, watching them do their thing, you know. And then eventually I'd be in this brace and I'd like get off of my crutches and like I'll start to walk around a little bit more and a little bit more, a little bit more, rehab, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, and then eventually 13 months pass and, you know, I'm already back to fighting. In the moment it was awful, but I feel like that was a very important learning experience for me, because how bad do I want this? Pretty dang bad. And not just that, but you know, we take so many things for granted, and you know, I can only imagine what people go through that, you know, are born without legs or born without the opportunities that I earned or got, you know. So who am I to stop because of an injury? So yeah, just no matter what happens, no matter how bad the fall is, just gotta get back up and keep going. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, and you share that process, how difficult that was, and then 13 months later you're fighting. But you're not just fighting. I mean, in your return at One Night 42, or Fight Night 42, you knocked out Gilbert Nakatani in 38 seconds with a spinning back fist, and you mentioned that you anticipated that he would try to use your knee as your biggest vulnerability as a weapon for him, and you kind of used that aggression to set a trap for when he leveled up. You're able to hit him with that spinning back fist, and yeah. I'm curious, how satisfying was it that you used this vulnerability of yours to actually bait him and end up getting a knockout?
We anticipated him going to southpaw to try and take advantage of my leg, snagging up the single leg and putting all of my pressure back here. I don't think he was ready. I think he was anticipating me to, he usually comes out orthodox, so when he came out southpaw, I was like, okay, he's looking for a single leg on this side. Or he really thought that I wasn't up to where I was. You know, it's only been a year, very, very devastating injury. And maybe he thought I was going to be a little bit less mobile, but he was throwing punches and I was out of the way. I was making a miss by a mile on some of these shots. I don't even think I got hit, to be honest. But yeah, there's a lot of people are like, oh, the ring rust. And I was like, nope, I was already there. I was already back in there. I threw the first kick and I kind of threw it a little lazy. And he lunged out of range, brought his hands down, and I was like, that's the first tell. I threw another body kick, did the same exact thing. I faked the body kick, shifted off the southpaw, landed the left hand over the top. We tried to engage in the grappling exchange, pushed him off, we reset. I threw another kick that landed right here, right above the cup, and even if you look back at that footage too, he was like, he didn't like that. He was like, ugh. And he claimed a low blow, but even the ref was like, no, keep going. So after all of that damage in just such a short amount of time, I picked up on his tendencies from southpaw. I even heard his coach say, go, when I threw the kick, but I threw it as a feint or a fake. I stepped all the way through to southpaw. I kept my eyes on him. He lunged in and boom. Two objects hitting each other at the same time. And I think the knockout was even more devastating because looking back at it, he threw a gazelle hook, which is a traditional boxing style, but you're off of the ground for a split moment. And he wasn't grounded, so he wasn't able to absorb that shot very well. With his feet off the ground, he took it right on the chin and he was out. I spun back around, I saw him on the ground, got a couple more shots in, and that was it. I think the injury might have been also one of the best things that's ever happened to me, to be honest. Not only just to, you know, mentally, but I also started watching a lot of footage, you know, not being able to move. I just watched a lot of footage on just not myself, but other fighters, some of my favorite fighters, and picking up patterns, being able to see things, you know, when somebody does this, there's the way that somebody feints or the way somebody defends themselves, where is their hand positioned, what reaction do they want out of me, what reaction can I get out of them, and the tendencies associated with that. So in there for less than 10 seconds, I already saw one tendency and I was like, okay, I can bank off of that. And 38 seconds later, I took full advantage of it.
How difficult is it in the moment when you're in these fights? Obviously, adrenaline's pumping. You can do a lot of preparation. I mean, the saying is, once you get hit, knocked in the teeth or something like that, like.
Once you get punched in the face, the game plan goes out the window.
Right.
I've heard that plenty of times.
Right. So, how do you balance, like, you have this preparation beforehand, but how do you, in the moment, keep awareness of that and also look out for what your opponent's giving you in that specific time to be able to capitalize on it?
Well, my coach, Matt Brown, he always told me, win the next 10 seconds. And in the first 10 seconds, I built upon his tendencies. The next 10 seconds, I was able to evade him, feinting even more, landing flush shots. The 10 seconds after that, I was able to get my distance back. You know, we reset off of that low blow. And then 8 seconds after that, I was able to establish what I needed. Having a calm mind, the calmer you are in there, yes, you need to make sure you have a tough guard. You need to make sure you have that, you need to make sure you're not too loose in there. But you just got to stay calm. You got to stay calm, and you got to trust your training. You got to trust all the people that have put everything into you. And no matter what, win, lose, or draw, everything's gonna be okay. So you got to accept that before the fight even happens. But once I step in that ring, that's mine. There's no way he's gonna take anything away from me. It is mine, and I don't get paid by the hour. So I was disappointed because the fight was only 38 seconds. I had so much more to show, but that just makes me even better and makes me even healthier for the next one. And you just got to stay calm. You got to be able to cut your angles. You got to stay present in the moment. You can't let it overwhelm you. Can't let it overwhelm you.
I want you to compare two moments for me right now. The moment where you beat Gilbert and you're standing on the ring and you're on the ropes versus 13 months prior when you're on the ropes because your knee and you're holding on and you see your opponent celebrating. Can you kind of just compare those two feelings for me?
Yeah. The thrill and agony, that's the best analogy that I can say. I've put a lot of my opponents in that position. And being back in that position after my first fight, however many years that was ago, taking that knee and watching everybody celebrate, and I was like, shoot, what happened? What did I do wrong? What could I have done better? The instant, like, what just happened kind of thing, versus, oh my gosh, that just happened. It's two completely different sides of the spectrum, and I can't it'd be hard for me to describe what I felt after that win, all of these emotions surging in, versus that singular emotion of when I lost the bond. I'm like, what the frick was that? What the heck was that? But yeah, Banma, what the heck was that? What did I do wrong? What was that? Why is my knee like this? What happened to my eye? What's my family thinking? What's my team thinking? Versus, I knew what everybody was thinking when I was up on those ropes. But yet again, just both on the opposite sides. It's hard to describe.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking over here right now is hearing about both feelings. It's almost like with this Banma fight, you're obviously shocked. It obviously doesn't feel good. You're hurting a little bit.
Shell-shocked.
Shell-shocked,
I guess you can say.
But then the real pain doesn't set in that ring. It's when you get home and it's weeks down the road, months down the road, and you're looking back on it. That's where that real pain sits. It's not what everyone sees on camera.
Yeah. Going back home, I remember sitting on the edge of the bathtub, freaking using a washcloth to wash myself off. I was like, dang it, what the frick, man? Crying, laying in bed, just awful. I hope nobody ever gets to feel that. I hope nobody ever feels that experience ever again. Like I said, I know people that have gone through way worse than I have. I just hope nobody ever goes through that. You know, it just sucks. And then, oh shoot, when I saw Banma test positive, when Nick, the main, main personality associated with One that does all the interviews and stuff, reached out to me and said, "Hey, I got some news for you." I was like, "Oh, okay, let me hear it." Sends me this post from the Bangkok Post, and Banma tests positive. It was a bit of relief because I saw him before weigh-ins and I saw him after weigh-ins, and I remember facing off with him. I was like, no way you're 135 pounds. But, that kind of just made it, I can't even put into words. It just like this dirtbag, this motherfucker, this, and then my blinders almost went up, I was like, you know what, I don't even care. I'm just gonna work through this and just like take his head off. Then I had to calm down. He's not, I hope to fight him one day, and I hope to punish him for 14 minutes and 59 seconds. Yeah. And then finish him in the last, knock him out or sub him in the last second. But I'm in a great organization, and I look forward to fighting people that'll actually give me challenges and won't rely on any enhancing substances to try and fight, And shoot, I almost knocked him out on one leg anyway. But, that kind of lit a fire in me, like, oh shoot, that guy had to take those to fight me. I gotta get back to work. So I got back to work, and I worked so very hard. And I trained so very hard. All those months, all those days kind of just turned into one blur, and now we're back. It's good to be back, man. And I'll make sure I go through anything necessary that this one doesn't do the same thing.
Yeah. So you're talking about during your rehab process, when you thought about quitting, it made you realize how bad you want this.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what's this?
The freedom, being able to, not just be a champion, but go ahead and be take care of my family and future generations, set them up for life, to be able to make sure the coaching and the skills that I present can be carried to the next generation that I teach. And just life, man. Life's crazy. Life's a beautiful thing. Life's a crazy thing. But no matter how hard it gets, you got to pick yourself up and got to work for it to be a better version of yourself than the day before.
And then I just have one last question for you. So you always thank your support system in every interview you're in, every chance you get. I'm curious, how are they an anchor for you in moments where you're eating fried chicken after getting a first round knockout versus, your ACL's torn and a year of your career is spent rehabbing? How are they there as your anchor?
They're always there no matter what, They're positive reinforcement when I feel so very down on myself. And they keep my head where I need to be. I don't want my head to get too big like a McGregor or like any countless other fighters that we can describe, or any of the other fighters that we've described earlier. They keep me grounded. They keep me sane, and they keep me going. No matter what, I will always thank them, because I started with literally nothing. And if it wasn't for all of those little moving parts of this greater machine, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. So of course, why wouldn't I thank every single person out of them? My girl Tiffany, picking me up, making sure that I'm good. For years, ever since I've known her, she's just been, we have our moments, of course, every relationship does, but if it wasn't for her, You know, when I didn't have my car broke down. She put her life on hold to get me to where I needed to go because she believed in me. Matt Brown, Mark Coleman, all the coaches, all of my teammates putting all this time and effort into me. And why, you know, my training partners at Westside, my sponsors, you know, all these people that have put time and effort into me because they know for a fact that I can do it. Why wouldn't I thank them? And why wouldn't I represent them till, just like Hawaii, why wouldn't I represent them till the wheels fall off? Yeah.
So I guess our last question is just, is there anything that you think I missed that you want to talk about or share that's an important part of your story?
No, I think you got them.
Perfect, man.
I appreciate you yet again coming out of your way to ask me some questions, and I look forward to talking with you again, brother.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you doing this. This has been awesome.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank you.